Just want you by my side. We've been tossing, turning, staying up all night long. Just want you by my side. We've been tossing, turning, staying up all night long. Just want you by my side. We've been tossing, turning, staying up all night long. Tell me, baby, what's the problem? 'Cause I could try to figure it out. Oh no, oh no. Tell me, baby, what's the problem? I'm only picking up what you're putting down. You'll be tripping, I don't know what about. So what's the problem right now? Okay. I've been tossing, turning.
Chapter 10:000 Kabuto couldn't have stopped her, no matter what he had done. Already he could feel his mind shredding under the force of her attack, Legilimens. Memories flashing through his mind's eye too quickly for him to follow, voices, sounds, distant songs and dirty jokes, screaming, the bubbling of test tubes, hospital tannoys, Orochimaru-sama commanding him. 1,000 different voices. And 1,000 different faces, jumbling together. Smells and sensations, he felt cold and hot and wet and dry and dirty and sweaty all at once. And then it stopped. The girl was vomiting and sobbing. She had seen everything. Knew everything he knew. Understood everything he understood from his perspective. And managed to keep herself separate from it. Such a unique mental state, he would have liked to explore her brain. He would never get the chance though. Tear-filled, horrified green eyes stared up at him. She really was quite lovely, he decided. Beautiful in her fear. She tore him limb from limb. 000 There was a lot of blood in the human body. More than he thought possible. Blood accounts for 8% of human body weight, possessing a density very close to that of pure water at 1,000 kilograms per cubic meter. Kabuto had already lost a fair bit being strung up like that, but the fountain-like sprays as his muscles and bones and veins snapped and tore was sickening in its volume. The average human adult has a blood volume of roughly 5 liters, 1.3 gallons, 45% of which is red blood cells. The average shinobi possesses a blood volume of roughly 1.5 gallons and a red blood cell count of 60%. The human body can be drained of blood in 6.8 seconds given adequate vacuuming systems. Black. 000 Hogwarts was in disarray. Bits and pieces of Kabuto's mind were splashed and discarded everywhere. Knowing how essential the order of his mind was, Harry was immediately gathering everything up into an off-room, one that he recalled as an abandoned classroom on the 3rd floor. Medical knowledge, torture techniques, jutsus, intelligence of various ninja from the lowest academy student to the strongest cage and the most secretive of Umbu, even recipes for meals and a map of the Konoha hospital were all gathered and organized within the room. Later, hopefully with Tsunade's help, they would go through the information and sort it properly. But for now, Harry didn't want it affecting him or his personality, and so sealed the room and set one of the suits of armor outside as a guard, to prevent memories from getting in or out. There was still a fight going on. 000 Harry. Harry, wake up. Oh God, her mouth tasted like arse. Gagging a little, Harry screwed his face up and heaved himself upright, feeling Hedwig nudging her with a gentle, cold metal-plated talon. The fight was over though. Or rather, Orochimaru had just been plowed under by Tsunade before fleeing by sinking into the earth. I was worried when I saw you collapse, Hedwig admitted, fluffing herself up and shifting an armored wing protectively around the blonde woman. I am glad you're all right. What happened? She asked, picking a few leaves from Harry's hair. She, quite wisely, didn't go anywhere near the part of his hair that landed in the puddle of vomit. I scrambled my brain digging through Kabuto's memories, she admitted as he got to his feet, leaning heavily on the monstrously proportioned bird and just breathing. I feel lightheaded, he admitted quietly as he turned his face into her white plumage and closed his eyes. Hurry-chan, you all right? Jiraiya asked, limping over. The better question is, what have you broken? Hedwig interrupted, golden eyes narrowing. Trevor, would you be so kind? She asked, turning to the toad perched upon her back, his webbed fingers hooked into her armor. But, of course, the messenger agreed instantly, lightly hopping down and towards the white-haired man. Thanks Gamejusho-kun. It's a busted rib and leg, clean. Breaks. Harry turned and opened his eyes to watch the flexible digits of the amphibian bend and twist themselves into the appropriate hand seals for the green light that Shizen-san used to heal Naruto the previous week. It hit her then. Where's Naruto? Is he alright? He demanded, pushing himself away from Hedwig and casting around for any sign of her younger brother. He ignored any comment. From Jiraiya the second his eyes landed on the prone orange form of the 12-year-old lying on the ground 60 feet away. A trembling old woman with a strong resemblance to Tsunade watching over him with Shizen at her side. He'll be fine. He'll probably wake up tonight feeling better than you will in 3 days, Jiraiya pointed out, watching as the rather peaky-looking young woman stumbled over to his side. He sighed, some guys get all the girls, he muttered unhappily as she fussed over him. Hedwig sniffed, keep your hands to yourself, or I shall eat them, she warned darkly, casting the toad summoner a dark look. No one was touching her chick without her approval, and most certainly not seek to mate themselves to him, now her. Really, she was thankful to him for all that he taught her during his years of turmoil. It brought her to the upper echelons of her trine's warriors despite her young age, but couldn't he just please keep it to a low burn? Changing gender was something she would never have fathomed but really should have expected. If it weren't for the familiarity of him, and the forewarning of Trevor, she would have thought him to be the young Jinhyuriki. Suitably mollified by the way the toad summoner had paled and nodded, she spread her wings and hopped over after the Gryffindor, greeting the older women present as was only polite. I am in agreement, Jiraiya-dano, Gamejusho admitted quietly, his jutsu fading away as he stared at the summoner with an uncommonly severe look that made him straighten up almost reflexively. Hurry has been through enough pain and heartache. It is a miracle he has not yet become the monster that took his parents and plagued our home to almost extinction. I would respectfully request you maintain a distance and not pursue your usual flights of fancy with her at this point, or I shall hold you down while Hedwig follows through. Jiraiya pouted, but you should be listening to me, he muttered. Already this girl was causing him no end of difficulty. Messing with Naruto's training, all right, for the better, interfering with the fight against Orochimaru, okay. So she killed Kabuto while Tsunade was incapacitated, Naruto down and Shizen too injured to walk, and now turning his own summons against him. Gamejusho gave him a look. Respect is earned, not given, Jiraiya-dano. You are strong and I do respect your skill. I would faithfully serve when called upon to the greatest of my capabilities, no hesitation. However, your personality and integrity are another matter entirely, those I cannot respect. Hurry. I have known since he was a child of 11. I would trust him above all other humans in the elemental nations, regardless of a summoning contract, the toad explained, almost gently. To his summoner, he understood that it would seem almost a betrayal of the contract and while he would serve Jiraiya-dano without hesitation and to the greatest of his capabilities. Should he dishonor Harry, a child he had watched grow and struggle and become a man, someone he considered as much his own as Neville had been, one of his cherished teachers and one of the boys he watched over in the Gryffindor Tower. Jiraiya's punishment would be swift and in the form of Hedwig's fury. The two of them had been united for many years in the defense of the Gryffindor boys, the two of them being the only trainee sages within the tower. The Sunin stared at the toad in contemplation. He had known Hori-chan from such a young age and still, regardless of a summoning contract, would trust and support her. That was quite the endorsement. Bah, too fussy for me anyhow, he grunted and smiling slightly, Gamejusho bowed, recognizing it for what it was. 000 The bathhouse owner wasn't happy in the slightest, but the headbands on Naruto and Jiraiya's foreheads dissuaded her from making a fuss, along with the wad of cash from the toad Sunin. Still, she threw an unhappy and almost filthy look at Hedwig as she landed delicately on the pale blue tiling of the woman's bathhouse. It was just the two of them, Harry and Hedwig, the others having gone to get food while he cleaned up and spoke to his dear friend for the first time in over a year. Hedwig discarded her armor and was now busily preening herself while Harry washed his hair and the two of them spoke. I'm glad you freed one of the dragons, but you could have been more careful about it, she scolded, gently cuffing the Gryffindor's back with a wingtip upon hearing of his daring escape from Gringotts. Harry chuckled self-deprecatingly before turning her attention to helping Hedwig clean up. Smaller hands, cleverer and nimble worked water through her feathers to make sure that everything from feather tip to soft down was cleaned of dust and dirt. Clearly it was the first proper bath Hedwig had been given, as she very much seemed to be purring under his efforts, the water running into the drains being decidedly grey and grubby as Harry worked steadily around her. His work done, she ruffled herself importantly, flicking now cold water everywhere and making Harry laugh as he was splattered. The blonde climbed into the bath water to soak as Hedwig set herself out in the sun to dry, ruffling herself every now and again, turning her feathers so the down could dry properly. So, Hedwig stared at her chick before sighing. I begged a favor, she admitted, her head dropping, shamefaced. It is a standard that the owl seers send us off with the knowledge of who would take us and what would happen to them. While I was with you though, I stopped seeing you as my teacher, and started seeing you as mine, my own. You had such a pure soul that it was painful to know that you would die to protect the magical world. They didn't deserve it. So, I begged Fox, she explained, shifting from foot to foot as Harry sat up in the water. You had missed your death date as an infant, only the prophecy was keeping you tied down. I begged Fox to send you here when you passed on. This is the closest twin to Earth, which is why summons send adepts to you for training. I thought, at least, when you passed on you would find the splittings of your parents to greet you. I didn't expect your own splitting to be a Jinhuriki, or for you to be half Shinigami. Harry held a hand up. What's a splitting? He asked. He needed to know what that was before he could even begin to make sense of what she was telling him, and compare it to what Pato told him. A splitting is, essentially, a soul. Your soul. She sighed, and began to make scratches on a fence with one of her talons. This is your universe. And you. This is the summon realm, and that line here is this universe. And you're splitting. It is. Essentially you. But elsewhere. Have you noticed yet? The similarities to yourself and Naruto? In your destinies? Your splittings. Just like your parents were one another's splittings as well. Though, from what I understand, things got tangled. Your magical mother ended up being your shinobi father and your magical father your kunoichi mother. James Potter was Kushina's splitting? But, Kushina looked almost identical to Lily Evans? Appearance is entirely negligible to splittings. Personality sometimes contributes, but destiny and events can identify themselves to those who know how to look. On occasion, those with unique souls on one side may be morphed into one person in the other, such as Jiraiya-san. Here he is a singular entity. But on Earth, he was too. He is a splitting not of both Sirius Black and Rubeus Hagrid. Well, he certainly had Sirius's perversion and Hagrid's lack of social awareness. Put those together and you'd get a super pervert. With what Voldemort has done to his soul, it is hard to say who possesses a greater portion of him, Orochimaru or his assistant Yakushi Kabuto. Here the owl smiled slightly. Tsunade-san is Professor McGonagall's splitting. I would try to be a little nicer. Harry gaped. That sour old hag has the same soul as Professor McGonagall? No way. Hedwig chuckled. Did you not know that Hagrid, Voldemort, and McGonagall all attended Hogwarts at the same time? She asked, making the blonde girl goggle at her. I told you, personality may contribute a little to a splitting, but destiny and events are the truth of it. The three, who attended Hogwarts in 3 separate houses, became teammates, and branched off to focus on 3 different disciplines in this world. One betrayed the whole, one remained loyal regardless of hardship, and the other became a teacher. Not even changing worlds can thwart destiny from her plans, Harry. 000 it explained a lot. Harry decided as he stared up at the starry sky above. They were heading back to Konoha at a nice sedate pace, camping out at their leisure. Harry didn't know why, but judging by the looks Shizune and Naruto were shooting her, it had something to do with him. He couldn't have known that the delay was so that Gamejusho could reach Konoha ahead of them and warn Ibiki and Inoichi of her, along with putting forward the paperwork for them to interview her for citizenship, cutting Danzo off before he could put into torture information out of her, regardless of what information it may have been. Harry and Naruto were splittings. They had the same soul. He looked down at the tiny blonde preteen as he squirmed and shuffled in his sleeping bag, quite dead to the world, over the 2 feet of space between them to properly cuddle up against his Nichan. At first Harry had merely believed it to be a child's simple craving for love and affection that he didn't otherwise obtain. The abrupt and complete show of trust from him was uncharacteristic, but it made sense now. They had the same soul, and so they instinctively knew the other would never harm them. They couldn't. Every bone in their body would rebel against harming the other. Hedwig was currently en route back to Kaminari no Kuni in order to obtain permission from the Elder in order for Harry to sign the Owl Summon Scroll, or at least for permission to become a personal summon, outside of the Order, for him alone. Individual contracts were rare, but in the noble clans they were rather common if the head honcho did not approve of a summoner. Hedwig had explained that there were individual contracts amidst the Owl clan already. A member of Kumigakure no Kuni had one with a horned messenger owl, Ishika. She was fairly low in the food chain and thus didn't have to petition the Elder to create an individual summons. Hedwig, being a Senadept and also a high-tier member of the Battler Owl Division, needed to speak with the Elders regarding any possibility of a summon scroll, between just her or the whole clan. Either way, Harry was likely to be visited by the Elder in person. Wrapping her arm around Naruto, he decided to go to sleep. He'd worry about all this in the morning, at a sensible hour, with a full stomach and some advice from the two Sennin. They had been two of his most trusted teachers once upon a time ago, perhaps they could be again? That's the end of this chapter. Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe for more and to help this channel grow. See you next time.
I could tell